What if I told you that the people who fear you the most almost never show it? Strange, isn't it? Most people think intimidation looks obvious. A raised voice, a threatening stare, aggression. But real intimidation is invisible. The most intimidating men usually have no idea what they're doing, because nobody tells them. Instead, people simply start behaving differently. And if you've noticed these 7 signs, there's a good chance you've been making people uncomfortable without ever understanding why. But here's the strange part. The first sign is so subtle, most men mistake it for bad luck. Every room has an invisible hierarchy. It forms within seconds. Nobody announces it. Nobody votes. People simply decide who feels safe and who feels dangerous. Not physically dangerous, psychologically. The man who cannot be predicted. The man who doesn't need approval. The man who doesn't react the way everyone expects. That's the man people remember. And once that image is created, their behavior changes in ways that are almost impossible to fake. The first sign is one of them. Every room has an invisible hierarchy. People become unusually careful around you. Not polite, careful. They suddenly think before speaking. They explain jokes. They apologize for things nobody else apologizes for. At first, you assume they're simply respectful. They're not. They're calculating, because your reactions are difficult to predict, and uncertainty creates tension. Thomas Shelby rarely threatens anyone, yet everyone chooses their words carefully around him. Not because he shouts, because nobody knows exactly what he'll do next. But that's only what happens when you're speaking. The next clue appears when you're completely silent. Mid-to, something happens. Someone tells a joke. Bad news arrives. Everyone laughs or panics except you. And suddenly, they glance at you, almost instinctively, waiting. Your emotional state becomes the reference point. The room starts following your nervous system. That's influence. But influence creates another strange effect, one that most men completely miss. Me too, people stop arguing, much sooner than expected. Not because you convinced them, because arguing with you feels exhausting. Most people argue emotionally, but when someone stays calm, their anger has nowhere to land. It's like punching smoke. Eventually, they give up. Not because they won, because they can't move you. And that inability starts turning into respect or fear. But here's where things become darker, because the next sign doesn't happen when you're present. It happens after you've already left. Me too. People talk about you when you're not in the room. You've noticed it. Conversations suddenly stop when you arrive. Someone says, "We were just talking about you." Maybe they were. Maybe they weren't. But intimidating people occupy space, even in absence. Their reputation enters the room first, and reputation is stronger than confidence. Still, there's one behavior that's even harder to fake. Me too. People seek your approval without realizing it. They explain themselves. They justify small decisions. They subtly look for a nod. Not because you're their boss, because your opinion carries psychological weight. Approval from someone emotionally independent feels valuable. Scarcity creates value. Attention creates status. But the sixth sign is where intimidation becomes impossible to ignore. Me too. Weak people dislike you before they know you. You've barely spoken, yet someone already seems defensive, cold, dismissive. Why? because your presence quietly exposes their insecurities. Confidence is a mirror. It forces people to compare themselves. Some become inspired, others become irritated. Not because of what you did, but because of what they felt. And that leads to the final sign, the one almost nobody notices. Me too. People never know what you're thinking. This might be the most intimidating trait of all. Most people reveal everything, their face, their emotions, their intentions. But when your expression stays controlled, your mind becomes impossible to read, and the human brain hates uncertainty. It fills silence with imagination. It invents stories. It assumes power. Thomas Shelby mastered this, not because he looked angry, because nobody ever knew where they stood with him. And uncertainty is often more intimidating than certainty. So if people become careful, watch your reactions, end arguments early, talk about you after you leave, seek your approval, react defensively for no reason, and struggle to read your emotions, there's a good chance they don't simply respect you, they find you intimidating. The mistake most men make is trying to look dangerous. The truly intimidating man never tries. He doesn't chase attention. He doesn't force respect. He doesn't explain himself. Because power rarely announces itself. It simply enters the room and lets everyone else adjust. And that's exactly why the most intimidating men are usually the last ones to realize it.